Alright, so I finally watched Gunbuster. And yeah, these are my raw thoughts on Gunbuster. Obviously spoilers for all the Gunbuster anime. You know, if you care about spoilers for a 40-year-old anime, there's your warning. And yeah, and these are my raw thoughts on Gunbuster as a whole. And I loved it a lot. Okay, I'm also gonna gush over the last 3 episodes because that's where I think the show's at its peak. But obviously, we gotta start off at the beginning and all that. If you don't know, Gunbuster is basically an anime about this girl named Noriko who wants to go fight in space and fight space monsters because her dad died and wants to avenge her father. That's the very abridged plot of the show. There's a lot of the plot of the show isn't really complicated at all and stuff like that. That's like the basic, right? I don't want to give away too much because I want you guys to watch this anime if you haven't already. I imagine a lot of people have probably watched this anime because it's really iconic. Yeah, this is my first time ever watching it. Yeah, so I ended up watching the OVA, not the movie. And I thought the OVA was amazing. If you didn't know, the OVA was directed by Hideki Anno. This is his directorial debut. If you don't know who that is, he's the guy behind Neon Genesis Evangelion, and he was really iconic in the world of mecha. And this is his debut, and I thought he did amazing. I thought this anime is really good. A lot of things I like about this anime are the voice acting performances. I thought they were really good, especially Noriko. I love her screams and all that. It's like very memorable and distinct. That shit's gonna stay in my head for a while. I was a big fan of the music, and I was a big fan of the artistic choices, especially around episode 6. But before we get to episode 6, let's talk about some other stuff. So episode 1 and 2 are a bit, they're okay. They're not really bad or anything like that. But I think the show really starts picking up around episode 3. And the reason why I think episode 1 and 2 didn't really work for me as much is because apparently I did a little research, and apparently Gunbuster was originally intended to be like a parody, before it took itself seriously. So I guess that was why, because it felt like a little cliche, a little like predictable. Noriko, nobody believes in her talent as a pilot and everything. Her dad's an admiral, so people think she's a nepo baby. She has like the classic believe in yourself from the coach. I'll get to him later. And so I feel like the first 2 episodes were a little bit, not generic per se, but like more just like a little cliche, if you know what I mean. One of the things I really love about Gunbuster is the lore. It's only 6 episodes long, but they do add like a lot of lore to the universe, and the world building is actually done really good. It doesn't feel like complicated or convoluted. It all makes sense in the context of Gunbuster. So that's something I really appreciate. You can tell there was a lot of passion in the world building, and whether or not like the science of the show was like accurate or not, you could tell that they thought it out all the way through. And speaking about the science of the show, a lot of the depth of the show and the emotion of the show comes from time dilation. I think time dilation is a pretty common thing in space media, but basically time works differently in space. For example, Noriko and this other girl, her name is Kazumi, she calls her One, she's basically the secondary protagonist. They sent out to space for 7 months, and during that time, Noriko and One have to intercept something going at light speed, right? And it's supposed to take like 10 minutes, but like 10 minutes doing that, it would be 6 months in the time and space. And also we find out later when we get back to Earth, because at the end of the day, her going to space was only meant for 7 months, but when they get back to Earth, it's 10 years have gone by. And that's where the drama of the show comes from, and I think it's done well. You really feel the gravity of what Noriko has to like give up just to fight in space, like avenge her dad and like defend humanity and all that. She pretty much has to abandon her life. Her best friend, kind of forgot her name, but she's the girl with the glasses. We see her around episode 1. They're the same age, and they're both 17 at the start. And then, but as soon as Noriko gets back home, she's 27. She has a whole child now, and yeah, it's devastating. We see like Noriko falls into a little bit of a depression. Like thinking about like, is it really worth going to save humanity and all that? And I think it's done really well. Speaking about characters, I want to speak about One. She is the, I guess you could say, like prodigy. She's like the one that like everyone in her class like looks up to her and stuff like that. I think she's an okay character. She works for this show. her main thing is the relationship with the coach Ota, it's like written with a T. I might sound like a liberal, but like I don't know. It feels a little icky because the age gap. Like he's okay. So they made like Cosme an adult and all that, which is nice, but it's still like an authority figure. It's kind of icky and all that. But even then, like I don't think their relationship was really that important. It was like suddenly hinted throughout episode 1, 2, 3. We really see most of it like in episode 4, especially when she goes to space and with Noriko, right? And yeah, that's like the relationship is like okay, it like works, but obviously at the beginning of the series, like Noriko kind of has like a crush on her. I mean, she's like all blushing when she's like near her and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know if I'm just like reading into things and stuff like that, but I thought they were gonna do something more about that. I thought their relationship was gonna be a bit more intimate. But it works. It's solid. I like her relationship with Noriko. She is more concerned about Noriko's safety. I wouldn't say she's like mean to her or anything. What I mean by that is that she tells like the coach figure, like Ota, to like, why are you putting Noriko through this? Because like at the beginning of the series, Noriko starts off as like this like scared, timid girl, and she becomes like a complete badass. But before we get to the badass part, she's kind of like afraid to go to space because like her boyfriend died and all that. I'll get to that. Sorry if this video seems like a mess. I'm just like rambling. But yeah, I mean, Noriko is more of like the concerned friend, but I think it all comes from a place of well-meaning. I don't think she's ever tried to be like a mean bully figure or anything like that. Another character I want to talk about is Young Ferd, I think her name is. She's like from Soviet Union. She's okay. Like she was like around episode 2 she was introduced. She starts off like as a little rival to like One and stuff like that, and they try to fight each other during their like squad missions, and they get into like this kerfuffle, right? And they find like the corpse of the main antagonist of the series, which are the space monsters. And I'll speak about the space monsters a little later. But like after that, they become like friends. Like immediately afterwards, they just like are cool with each other. Like all three of them are just like cool with each other. I feel like we like skipped a lot, but like that's just how I feel. I think their relationship developed like a little too fast, But she's fine overall. She's a better character on episode 5 and 6, I think. Yeah, sorry about that, especially on episode 6. She's okay for the most part, Well, okay, so I was saying like around the last 3 episodes get good, but episode 3 was when I kind of got hooked. There's this character, his name is Smith, right? And he kind of like, okay, so Noriko kind of has like a crush on him and stuff like that, and it was like very devastating because in the same episode he gets introduced, he just dies. Like immediately afterwards. It's like pretty tragic and all that, but I didn't really feel anything towards them, to be honest with you guys. But it works for Noriko's development, That's where she stops being this shy little girl and starts being an actual serious pilot. Because around episode 4, we finally get the gunbuster. And the gunbuster is one of the coolest mechs ever. Like, it's the presence it has is just so dominating, especially when you compare the size to like the other robots. I think they're called Silverlings. I'm not really sure about that. But yeah, the gunbuster itself is just such a cool mech. And I liked it a lot. I like how powerful it is. And I think it was really satisfying seeing Noriko actually become like a badass. Like fucking killing everything in sight. And saving the human race at least like 3 times. Episode 5 is obviously where I mentioned the One and Ota stuff. But that's where we get the whole they go back to Earth, Noriko's in her depression, but it does kind of show how her mentality has changed a lot because during the mission and all that, instead of like Noriko being the one that's like all sad and like doesn't want to fight, it's kind of reversed. Now it's One who has to get like motivated by Noriko, and I think that's pretty cool development. I'm not gonna lie, I like Noriko a lot. She just becomes like a complete fucking badass. To be honest, man, their kill count is insane throughout the show. I'm not gonna lie. Space aliens, they work for what they are. They're not really like an entity that can like communicate or anything like that, but they are very threatening. You kind of get to understand the grasp of like how fucked humanity is. Like besides the gunbuster, they're like kind of screwed, and that's kind of the main conflict of the show right there. And I think it works really well. I don't know how many times I can repeat that. In the finale, it's all black and white. I think this was an artistic choice by Ano, but I won't lie and tell you that the final battle isn't a little disappointing. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically, I don't want to give away too much, but the final battle is basically just like all storyboards, like music and all that. You could tell this is a Gainax show by that, you know, because in episode 4 we get really beautifully animated, like, you know, the thunder kick and stuff like that. And in episode 6, during the final climactic battle of the show, you know, all the space, they're in the headquarters of the space monsters, and it's just like that. You know, it's a little disappointing, but it's not the end of the world. And the final sequence of Noriko basically sacrificing herself is really satisfying and also really well animated. And, you know, I don't really have a lot of issues with the show at all. I guess the only issue some people might have is the fan service. Now, this is an OVA from the 80s, so obviously there's going to be some titties and ass. It's not really too explicit. Well, unless in like episode 2, where you're just straight up like nude for like several minutes. But I mean, if you're like if you don't really like fan service or anything like that, I don't mind fan service typically. Like, it doesn't really detract or anything for me, so I'm okay with it. But if you don't like it, I guess you could just, I don't know, man, skip those parts. I think it's still worth watching overall. Again, the fan service isn't as like, this isn't like Golden Boy or anything, you know. But yeah, there's a lot of like fan service here. So if you don't like that, I guess that's your thing, man. But I think you should still really watch the show. And I guess another flaw of the show might be, I guess I already mentioned it before, but I guess like Oda and like Kazumi's relationship. I mean, look, you're not really supposed to think about it too deeply, but I guess it's a little, you know, like, I don't want to use the word problematic because I don't want to really sound like a fucking liberal, but like, sure, man, yeah, I guess you could say that. Those are really the only issues I see like someone might have with this show, but overall I think it's aged really well, especially in the animation. I think the animation, especially for like the big fight scenes around episode 4 and 5, go really hard, like really good. Again, Noriko's voice actress does an amazing job, especially with her screams. And, you know, I want to mention the final episode one more time. That finale, the ending of the series is so beautiful, man. Like, so basically, okay, I don't want to spoil too much because I want you guys to watch the show, you know. But it's really beautiful, man. Like, the finale, you know, they're finally arrived from Earth, and there's a whole welcome back, and it's just so emotional. The music and everything's on point, man. And when they get out the ships, it returns in color because the whole episode is in black and white. You know, the whole finale's in black and white. Except for that last scene, like the last when they like exit the gunbuster. I think that's like really nice touch, and the colors back. And yeah, it's just I recommend Gunbuster a lot. Sorry if this video seems like a little mess. It's not scripted or anything. These are just my raw, off the cuff opinions on Gunbuster. I am currently watching the second episode of Die Buster too. I will obviously make a video on Die Buster as well. And yeah, man, this is just it for me. Peace and bye.